Hey everybody, it's Matt Demers here from the Score Esports, just here on day 2 of the Summit 3 here with our lovely friend Kevin Godek, otherwise known as Purge. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Watched all the games from home today. I was a little tired in the morning. Turns out waking up at 7 a.m. Takes a toll on you.
Really?
So
I never would have guessed.
It does, yeah. So got here a little bit later, like 9 hours later. But I've watched the games, I've done my homework, and I'm ready to talk Dota.
Awesome. Cool. I was here just watching it myself. Just a lot of like... I really hate to say it, but it was a lot of similar to yesterday's games where it was just like really fast.
Yeah.
A lot of really fast Dota being played. A lot of like kill heavy stuff. What I was noticing was that like we'd get to a point maybe like 10, 15 minutes into the game, and it would be like one team would have maybe like 13 to 17 kills, the other team would have maybe 3 to 5.
Yeah.
And it would just be in a position where the way that the commentators were mentioning it and the way that the players were mentioning, the disadvantaged team would always kind of be like sitting there waiting for that moment, but it never would come. Do you think that's just how the patch is, or is it that there's just like a lack of like those kind of moments that
Are you talking about like a comeback moment?
Yeah, exactly. Like we're looking for those moments, I guess, that people could potentially make that comeback.
They definitely needed them to win those games,
yeah.
But it was there was a lot of snowballing today, and I think some of the games were really outmatched, like the LGD Not Today matches were really one-sided, but even the secret LGD ones were definitely back and forth, and the teams were pretty equally skilled. It's just they're kind of outmatched in some ways, and I feel like the biggest thing about the patch maybe so far is that people are just picking stuff that makes for really strong lanes, and it's different than what we saw in the last patch.
Yeah.
They're just focusing on having really strong lanes, and if they do get the advantage, then they continuously push it. It feels like there isn't a whole lot of downtime, especially like one of the secret games where I think the first one where they had Chen. They played very organized, and they took a lot of early advantage, and they had a huge gold advantage, but their levels were still a little bit low. But that was because it was like 17 minutes, and the game really hadn't progressed very far. And it's more like, feels like that's more like what Dota was like before 6.83 or 6.82, I believe. But like around the last TI. So it's like very early game focused, very early ganks focused, and early rotations and all the other stuff. And I'm enjoying watching it. I mean, it is a lot of stomps, but it's fun to watch the metagame be developed, and it is still very, very high-level games. So there's a lot of cool stuff that's going on. So
something that I was talking to S4 about was that I was either S4 or TZ. I did 2 interviews today. Basically, something that they were mentioning was that the previous patches had made people like conditioned to be safe.
Yeah.
So because if they threw away that lead, just because of the comeback mechanics and that kind of stuff, you know, they needed to take that lead and just like hammer it home until they actually won the game. And obviously that's the same kind of thing here, but it's almost like they've been conditioned now, like the threat of that large buyback, comeback golds, swing in favor of the other team is gone. Now they're just better at, you know,
not throwing.
Not throwing.
Yeah.
You know,
I said that yesterday actually. I was like, you went through this long period where you're terrified of throwing, and all pro players got their stuff together and they stopped doing that crazy stuff. And in the late game, they played safer and more organized.
Yeah. They
do Roshans on timers and things like that.
Yeah. So. Do you think there are any heroes that like facilitate that a little bit better that was perhaps played in the last patch?
What do you mean facilitate?
Like just
to make the game safer?
Yeah, exactly.
Late game picks, cores like that. I mean, you still see like support picks sometimes, like Dazzle and things like that. But,
yeah. I've been seeing Puppy play a lot of Dazzle.
Yeah, Dazzle's actually a really good early game hero. He actually does surprisingly good damage. Good right click. He works really well with the Drought strat. That was really cool. They all got treads that game to synergize with the plus damage. They had a lot of attack speed. Yeah. Something I was seeing, I guess, in the last game that they were playing against LGD was that like it was almost that they were unkillable, because if the Wisp Bristleback, the core Bristleback was naturally tanky on by himself, and then you know Wisp tethered to him would be healing him up, and then you know if one of the two fell low, there would be an instant grave, and that would give them enough time in order to heal up the person that was low. If it was the Wisp, grave the Wisp, you know, use a mech or something like that, heal the Wisp back up, he'd be back, you know, doing what he does, or if it was the Bristleback, same thing would happen. So I guess it's just like a lot of synergy that promotes a lot of safety, I guess. But it was still based on the early game advantage that they got from killing Shadowfiend a million times, and like No Tail I think pointed out, or one of the C9 guys, the Wisp got the fast level 2, and then all of a sudden they dove the SF when he didn't expect it, and then bam, easy first blood, and then they continue diving and diving and diving. It's just because I feel like Bristleback as a hero, he may look really OP in that game, but his strength is having just a little bit more HP than your opponents expect. It's kind of like Undying, similar hero design. If he just has a little bit too much HP, all of a sudden he does amazing things, and that's what happens when you pair it with a Wisp. So maybe if the hero maybe had a stun or something, they could have stopped that diving from happening, and then as the mid-game Bristleback developed, he maybe doesn't do as crazy of stuff, and then Bristleback looks mediocre. But because he got such a big advantage and they had so many heals and they had a Wisp, they're just doubling up on their heal advantage with the tether and then just more kills and more kills and more kills. And from there, they played a really clean game.
That's always really good.
So it was really just I feel like this is something that we maybe saw. I remember a player telling me about this, maybe at TI3 or something. They said the good teams, if they know they're better than another team, they'll just aggressively try lane them. And they know that because they're better, they're likely to win their lanes and from there push it into an advantage. And then once you have an advantage, it doesn't really matter like what team you are, you're likely to win. So I feel like we're seeing a lot of that right now because maybe the patch isn't really figured out. It's like we'll pick heroes that make for strong tri lanes, we'll win our lanes, and we'll get to the mid game and we'll just stomp. So I feel like it's just safer to pick tri-lane heroes rather than to pick things like greedy heroes that they think they can get away with until like we really learn what's too greedy for this patch and what's not.
Do you think that we're still, like we're going to see a little bit more, I mean, people are being careful right now, but they're being careful and because it's the group stage, they may not be like as nervous as they should be or could be. Do you think that those nerves might cause some a little bit more mistakes coming into like the bracket stage when we kind of get to the possibility of people getting eliminated?
It's possible, but I think since the tournament is so low-key, I think everybody's pretty content with the way they're going. Maybe EG's got to be really concerned since they did get knocked down so early. I think that one was a little bit of a surprise, but as a whole, I think everybody's just playing regular Dota hero. Everybody here is really experienced with the exception of Rave and Not Today. So I think Rave, Not Today, and EG are the ones that should be most worried at the moment. I think Cloud9 maybe not them because they have been playing pretty well.
So say you're like Rave or Not Today. It's like you're seeing like something that we were noted before the interview started was that Not Today picked heroes that they were obviously comfortable with, and they still managed to get pretty overpowered. It's like if you're a team like that and you're seeing like even your kind of like best efforts or like your most comfortable efforts kind of not working out for you, it's like how do you like go into your next matches and like how do you put yourself in a mindset to like learn from that? Like what do you take, I guess?
I think their game one was maybe something they should just mentally write off because they got aggressively tri-laned and their matchup wasn't very good, and when you're that far behind, it's just not worth thinking about. I think it was mostly just small laning mistakes, a couple kills that put them so far behind that it's not worth analyzing the game. Game 2 was a lot closer, and
they did lead the kills at one point.
They did pretty decent game 2. I thought they still got pretty overpowered, but they did better. So I think I would just look at that maybe for them, just try to outplay your opponents and translate that into the mid to late game that I assume they can play really well. There were some mistakes on the Prophet player. I don't remember what his tag is, but they could definitely improve there. But I think they have a shot at winning a best of 3. It's just going to be really hard.
There's like almost like a rock paper scissors of strategy where like one strategy will be one strategy will be one strategy.
Normally the trifecta is pushing, ganking, and team fighting.
Yeah.
But
right now we're kind of seeing a little bit of everything.
It's more like early laning, I feel, into pushing is what's strong. So it's more like the push lineups seem to be like they're picking good push heroes and good early laning heroes, which allow them to get an advantage and the game ends. And like even the team fight heroes, like you don't even get time to finish your blink daggers. It's kind of reminiscent of what we saw at TI4 finals right now. But again, I just feel like it's more of as a reaction to the patch being new and everybody really focusing on lanes. And because the comeback is now gone, it's like people can play aggressive again, and the aggressiveness is actually being rewarding.
Are there any heroes that you think like that kind of fit into this style of play that you think that we haven't seen much of yet?
Maybe something like Vengeful Spirit is maybe a hero that's been pretty overlooked. I mean, he's good in team fights too, but I think he's a very good early laning hero. His range is a bit low, I guess. Dazzle is maybe one I would say. I'm happy to see Shadow Demon a lot. He's a good example of like an early fighting hero.
Yeah.
To cover people, save lives, turn things.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the main ones. Gyro's being banned a lot as a carry, and most of the other carries we're seeing are still pretty early-ish game, like Morphling we saw today, which is a pretty good early game carry, and also a good late game. So I feel like the picks are representing the points I made.
Okay, so in terms of like the matches we're going to see tomorrow, it's going to be Rave versus EG, obviously, and Invictus Gaming versus Not Today. But we have Cloud9 taking on the winner of Rave and EG, and then we also have LGD taking on the winner of Invictus Gaming and Not Today. So if we're going by stereotypes, if we're going by relative strength of the team, we're pretty much going to see another Cloud9 EG, which in the group stages, Cloud9 beat them 2-0 in fairly, I believe the second game was especially short. It was something like 14 minutes or something like that. I could be wrong.
The second game was closer, I think, but the game one was pretty stompy.
Yeah, the first game it was 17 minutes, 42 seconds. It was like 10-3 or something, like 10-3 kills. And then if we go to the other one was 36-48, which is actually the longest game that we've had at this tournament. There's only been two games that have actually gone past 30 minutes, which is pretty nuts when you think about it.
Yeah.
So like if we go by relative strengths, I guess we're going to see another Cloud9 versus EG, and then we could see a Chinese matchup of LGD versus IG.
Yeah, I think both of those follow-up sets will be really good, and maybe even the Rave EG one could be pretty okay. I think Not Today might have a lot of trouble, but the other set will be good. I'm not really sure who won between IG and LGD. I guess I think EE said that he thinks LGD is better than IG, but I'm not completely sure. I think they do look a little bit better than IG. And in terms of the other matchup as well,
EG versus C9.
Cloud9, I think EG can bounce back, but since C9 did 2-0 them pretty convincingly, I think they're looking a little better. And as well, I feel like C9 figured out the last patch really well as well. So I feel like that they might use that experience to do better with the new patch as well than EG.
I guess the last question I had for you is like when we were sitting upstairs, like I'm sitting upstairs in the practice room anyway, listening to like the teams kind of like talk amongst each other anyway, and just like theorycraft and that kind of stuff. I guess like how much when you have the opportunity to like share not share strategies, but like theorize with other players, is there like a limit to like how much you divulge, I guess, and like what you save for your team?
Yeah, people are definitely a little private about that kind of stuff. Especially it depends on friendships as well. Like you might share more information with some other people. There's
people
also
out in your
rules.
Group, or
yeah, you know, like nationality or people you used to be on a team with, or things like that. I'm sure the Chinese organize a lot with other Chinese teams. So, I mean, they don't even talk to the other players because they don't speak the same language. So then it becomes this big socially awkward standoff thing. So I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that they don't share with each other.
Clearly, we all just need to learn Mandarin.
That would be the next level strat.
Exactly.
Get one pretty good player that also speaks Mandarin, whoever you can find.
Definitely.
And you'll be good.
Definitely. So. Thanks so much again just for stopping by and talking with us. We're going to be doing more videos for the rest of the summit, more interviews, more recaps, more live stats. You can check out our app at thescoreesports.com. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube just to check out all the other videos that we've got going on. Thank you so much again, Purge. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a great night.